Spatchcock Funk here, making one of our favorite things in the world, fried rice. And we call this Cadillac fried rice because it's got all the trimmings, but it's easy to make at home, super luxe tasting, but depending on your budget or what you got in your fridge, doesn't have to be that expensive. But the key to it, to a great fried rice, is a few things. Good rice, which you get from a good Chinese restaurant, and great proteins, and cooking them in stages. So all the fatty flavors of the proteins go through everything. Our proteins today, we have one New York strip that we've let sit out for 25 minutes with some salt on it, draw some moisture out, and then besides eggs, shrimp. So we've got U15 shrimp, and what U15 shrimp means in the package, it means it takes under 15 of them to make a pound. So with the shrimp, we're gonna take them, they're about this size, right? This is the size we want with this, so just a big fork of it, you're overwhelmed at how beautiful this shrimp is. We take the shrimp, by the way, what you do is you cut a slit along the back, devein it. When you wanna just get it out, pinch the tail, pull the top off, and now you've got your shrimp ready to go. So we've got our shrimp out, we've dried it with paper towels. We're gonna put that in a mixing bowl. And then in the mixing bowl, we've got a tablespoon of cornstarch and a little bit of salt and pepper, about a dash of each. And all we're gonna do is we're gonna toss that and then set it aside. Now we've got a frying pan here. You can use a wok and walk this way, but if you don't have one, a heavy bottom frying pan, like a heavy bottom, works well. We've got some butter in here, and we're gonna keep hitting it every time we switch the cook and the food out with some sesame oil, because it adds a lot of flavor. So the first thing we're doing is we're putting in this beautiful New York strip. So the fattiest protein always goes first to render the most fat. The reason why I like this steak is the fat, the flavor, we're gonna cut it. It's gonna be a beautiful little bite, but you can use Spam, we've used ham before. How I first actually made this dish was I had leftover white rice from a Chinese restaurant. So I didn't know what to do with it. I figured out I could fry it, put some flavor in there, make some fried rice. And I had leftover Spam, and I had some leftover prosciutto, and made like this crazy wild fried rice, but it works. All you need is veggies and protein and cold fried rice. So first, let's get the steak going, render all the fat. We're gonna even hit the cap on the side too and get some of that fat out of there. But over high heat at first, and then cook the steak for a little bit. Get all the fat we can out of it. Got our steak seared. We're gonna let that rest for the duration of the cooking process. We're gonna lower our heat to around medium-high, and then move on to the shrimp portion. So we're gonna add a little bit more of the sesame oil for that flavor in there, okay? And we are gonna add in our shrimp that we've tossed in the cornstarch. And what the cornstarch does, you know when you go to a good Chinese restaurant, like Szechuan Palace or China House, and you have that shrimp that has a little bit of a crispy edge to it, that's just cornstarch, salt, and pepper. So we're gonna put that in here too, and toss these around till they get nice and fried a little bit, but not too long, about 3 to 4 minutes. You wanna get each side so it's got this nice crispy crust on it. Our shrimp are just barely cooked through, which is how we want it. Crispy, so we're gonna set those aside and then move on to the next protein. Okay, so any good fried rice in our book has some eggs in it. So we've got the sesame oil, we're gonna add a little bit more. Keep adding some more sesame oil in here, swirl around, and now we're just gonna scramble up 2 eggs. And we're gonna keep chopping them so we get them into this beautiful little scrambled up sexy little thing. While we're cooking the eggs, we want them to be broken into small pieces so they're spread evenly throughout the rice. So we're gonna set aside our eggs too, and then move on to the veggies. More sesame oil, and we're gonna throw in about a tablespoon of butter. Get that good and frothy, all the flavors in there. We're gonna add in half of a diced white onion. Now you can use fresh peas, frozen peas, but we're gonna put in about 1/3 cup of peas. Now we're using canned diced carrots that have been drained. The reason why is they're not gonna be hard and crunchy. You want them to be soft so they can cook evenly and get a little crisp on it. Then we're gonna get this all in there and keep cooking and stirring this until the onions get a little translucent. All our veggies are good, so we're gonna put that in the same tray we set aside with the eggs. Our steak has been resting for 5 minutes, and it's gonna be still, if we did it right, rare, and that's how we want it. So we're gonna dice that up, and some of the fatty parts, which I normally would eat this, we're gonna throw that back in the pan so we get more of that fat rendered before we get the rice in. We're just gonna chop these up into little bite-sized pieces that are gonna go perfectly in to our dish. We're only putting just the fatty parts back into the pan. The rest of the beef, we're gonna leave out with this medium rare beautifulness in it. We just want more of that fatty flavor. So we've turned it off because there's some residual heat. We've got the fat in there. We're gonna put in 1 more tablespoon of butter. We've got the sesame oil and the fat from the steak and all the flavors all melded in here. So that's good and frothy. Now it's time to add the rice, which is obviously the big part of fried rice. We have a quart of white rice from a Chinese restaurant that has been in the fridge overnight. You always, and this is critical, you want this to be cold, because when it's cold, that way it won't get glommy and you'll still get the actual texture of the rice. If you put it in and it was room temperature or warmer, it would turn into paste, and we don't want that. So we're gonna put it in. We're gonna break it up with our spatula and toss it around and start heating it up. And then after that, turn our heat back to medium. The rice starting to crisp up, which is fantastic. We have a teaspoon of hoisin sauce, a teaspoon of oyster sauce, half a tablespoon of soy sauce, all mixed together so they don't stick together. Now we're gonna stir the rice in with that flavor, and we're gonna get a nice darker color to it, but some more flavors to mix with all the other flavors we already got. Then we're gonna add in what we're doing here. Usually we just take the bottle and squirt it over this, but we're also gonna add in 2 teaspoons of fish sauce. So fish sauce creates that umami flavor, and umami is like salt and bitter and all these things. You have salt as a flavor profile, bitter, but umami is glutamates, like MSG is the umami flavor. So we're putting that in here, and it's basically like comes from anchovy paste. So if you like Caesar salad and you're like, I don't like anchovies in my Caesar salad, you already got them. They're using anchovy paste. Now we've got the rice flavor in here, looking right, feeling tight, and ooh, daddy, got that umami. Next to come back in goes the veggies and all of their juices with the eggs. We're gonna toss that around. So because it was cold, the rice are now in their actual little rice pieces and not like chunks and all glommed up and all that. Now at this point, after we've got it through here, the next thing comes all that delicious steak. Add some stirs. Now we're gonna turn the heat off. Yeah, this is fried rice. Last, but certainly not least, it's gonna be our beautiful shrimp. You can feel that crispiness. Okay, let's eat, baby. The quantities we use allow us to get on every fork bite, right? Piece of meat, all the different flavors. I'm gonna take a big shrimp. Some people cut the shrimp up. We don't, we like them big. So, fried rice, from Szechuan Palace to China House to your kitchen, keep going, Spatchcock Funk.